My name is Sunny, and today is Wednesday, October 19th, 2016. I'm in my fourth or fifth week of prep, I can't remember. But today I have an exciting change. I got to sit down this week with a friend of mine, and we had a nice conversation about NaNoWriMo and our pasts with it. I kind of talked to him about how he does prep and kind of his philosophy on planning stories and stuff like that. So fascinating stuff from my friend Josh. So I hope you enjoy.
My name is Joshua. I write stories. I try to finish them, and when I finish them, I publish them.
I'm on that track, but never there.
I am currently halfway through publishing a book, actually. So the whole thing will be up in December. I've been publishing them in like episodes. Kind of found that the story had some natural breaks in the action, and so I cut them up in order to give myself more practice. Publish those as individual episodes. So I'm about halfway through putting those up, and then in December I'm going to put all of them together in the full book. And I've also been doing them in print as well, so getting all kinds of practice so far. It was really exciting when I got the first little itty bitty slim 50-page episode in the mail in my proof copy. I'm like, oh hey, look at that! The cover needs to be different. It was a lovely
So you're doing this self-published, or are you doing it online too?
Yeah. I've got it up Amazon, Kobo. I haven't figured out iBooks yet. I think I have it on Nook. And then there's...
On Nook.
Huh?
You better have it on Nook.
I know I opened it up, and then there's a draft to digital. D2D is the acronym that all the indie publishers use, and I don't remember what it stands for, but they feed out to a whole bunch of the kind of smaller digital publishing venues.
That's legit.
So yeah.
You're actually doing the thing that I kind of want to do eventually.
Yeah. Well, and I've done some of this before with a prior project, back when I was still in school, but the problem there was I was trying to write the project while publishing the individual episodes and also finish school, and I failed at all three. So I eventually stopped writing, and so hence stopped publishing, and managed to finish school.
Good.
Late. But still finished.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm finally getting back to that. So
Good.
This book is actually all written, so that's why I'm able to actually.
Then you can actually
publishing
focus
it.
on
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's cool.
So that's who I am.
So you're participating in NaNoWriMo this year?
I'm planning on it, yes. This will be the first year that I have participated since the last time I finished a Nano, which I think was 2012. So it's gone on 4 years.
I think 2013 was my first NaNoWriMo.
Was your first NaNoWriMo?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I have participated in Nano, I think 4 times. I've only finished twice. And both of those.
Me too.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Cool.
Two.
So did you finish the first time that you attempted
Yes.
Nano? Okay.
I I dug into it like a pit bull. I was like, I'm not letting go. And
Nice.
my days do this exponential curve.
Right,
Because the last
right.
3 days, 30,000 words, that was intense.
Yeah, because it's you kind of inch along, and
fall
the
behind,
first
feel
week
bad.
you feel great because you're hit that goal, and then something happens and you're yeah, 500 words. Yeah, halfway to the goal. I'll catch up on the weekend.
Yeah.
And then you get towards the end and you're well, I know what's going to happen because at this point you're so deep into the story, about halfway through, you hit that 25 or 30,000 word mark, and you're okay, I feel comfortable with the characters, I feel comfortable with the setting.
Yes.
I kind of know where my end point is going to be. So Thanksgiving's coming up, let me finish real quick. Or Thanksgiving comes and you don't get anything done, and you're I have 6 days left.
I explained it to my family. I was like, I love you guys. I see you guys every year. So I'm gonna spend this year working on this. I'm gonna eat with y'all, but I'm gonna be busy doing other things, so I won't be visiting. Yeah, that's what happened.
Cool, but those feel great. Those final days where you're just oh my goodness, it's just in the flow, and you just don't come up for air, and you're 3 days pass, and you're oh, hello world, is this what it looks like outside?
It's hard to do, but if you can get past that,
Yeah.
feels good in the end.
Mm-hmm.
My second year was definitely a lot more like study.
Yes, and like you look back at, because you did it 2 years in a row and you hit the goal. Because the 2 years that I finished it, I hit it in a row, and I reached the 50,000 word on the first year, but the story wasn't done. So I remember like the first week of December, kind of looking at me like, okay, I need to do like this to finish that arc. Okay, great.
Yeah.
But then the second year, I did hit. I just looked at the numbers, and it was like right on 52,000 words. And I just know, without having read either of those in a while, that the second one just reads so much better and has more of an arc and is better paced and just is so much of a better book than the first one was. Even though I really didn't do a whole hell of a lot of writing in the intervening year.
Yeah, the experience definitely holds.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been trying to build on that each year.
Yeah, every year I'm like, okay, I'm gonna finish it, and I'm just gonna do 50,000 words every month, right? If I can do it in 1 month, can't I just do it? Like, just keep that going. Maybe someday I'll be that comfortable with the process, but
that just makes my brain hurt thinking about that.
Really, it makes me excited. I'm always like, because I have all of these things that I want to do, but I've only done these things and not even finished any of those. But I have these 2 things that I have finished, and I did so in a relatively, and I felt good like in that process. So surely something should translate here. It hasn't yet.
Definitely looking at what all of the projects that I want to do, probably pushes me a little bit more towards wanting to do that.
Right.
Maybe 30,000 words.
Yeah, like the whole Stephen King 1K a day idea. I mean,
just
even that would be more than I do right now.
Yes, yeah, we can agree on that.
And that's my biggest challenge is consistency, and that's where Nano is such a boon, I would say, such a great motivator, because it does like force you to be consistent with those words, or else you're going to be doing 40,000 words in the last week of the month.
Which is not fun.
No, it's not. I haven't done that, but I imagine it would not be fun.
My first story was the first 2 nanos that I finished. So I ended up with over 100,000 words, and I'm still not actually done.
With the story? Mm-hmm. Oh, so you haven't actually written an ending yet?
Yes, I finished a story like once. I finished a fan fiction, but it's not an ending.
Okay.
No, not an ending.
Yeah, my first nano, both the nanos I've written are fan fiction, which I think helped in terms of, like I said, getting into the flow of the story and like settling myself in the world, because I already had a lot of conventions to work with. But anyways, with the first nano that I finished, it's like going along, it's like this corporate espionage thing, and then like at the very end it's like, and we're gonna go to like action adventure this way, like it's like action thriller time, like what? So it does kind of come out of left field. But again, the second one, working the ending into like the rest of the book, it feels like a more natural outgrowth. So I definitely relate to like the whole, this isn't an ending, this is just the thing that you wanted to write at this moment.
It was not good.
Yeah. But endings are fun, especially like when you know it's the ending, because you're like, the same kind of adrenaline rush of, I can write all of these words in a rush that you get at the end of Nano is like doubled when you get to the ending of a book, because you're like, everything has been building up to this. Let's go.
I wish I could feel like I could plot that. I'm such a plotting noob.
So would you say you're more comfortable writing middles then, as opposed to beginnings or endings? Because I found that there's typically more beginnings.
I don't know what it is. I love the beginning.
And typically I find that folks who are comfortable and good at writing beginnings tend to be comfortable and good writing endings as well. It's just the middle then.
Maybe I'm not good at the beginning. Maybe I just feel like I like a beginning. Maybe my beginnings aren't actually beginnings. Maybe they are middles.
You just drop into the middle and you're like, well, let's go.
We're going. We're off on this adventure.
Because especially if you said, you've written 100,000 words in 2 nanos and it's all like one story incomplete. Like, I struggle to get to 100,000 words with any project, even though like I think in terms of series, and so I feel like I would naturally be able to just, like, I get to the...
It's book 1.
Yeah, see, I get to the 50 or 60,000 word mark, and I'm just like, this is still going? What? No, I need this story to end so I can get to the next one because my series steps are like this, and this one book has just been taking so long.
But I'm glad to hear you say that endings are fun because I was very intimidated by the end, like writing the ending of that. I plotted it out, I had a good kind of thing come together, but I just couldn't get my head back into the characters and the story.
Yeah.
So it just felt wooden and wrong, and so I stopped writing it. But I think maybe I was getting in my own way. I think I was intimidated by it, and I just couldn't let myself feel connected to it.
90% of the time, it's just you getting like every now and then, and I've heard tell on good authority, aka from professional writers who've been doing this a hell of a lot longer than I have. So I've heard from folks that the more books and stories that you finish, the more you can trust sort of the writerly hesitation, where it's like this doesn't feel right. The more experience you have, the better that instinct is. But at this point in our careers, if you can call it that,
sure.
I would say like 10% of the time when you're like, something doesn't feel right or I don't feel good writing this, there maybe is something wrong. 90% of the time is just you being dumb.
I'm dumb.
No, we're both dumb. It's like, yeah, I feel sluggish or mopey or whatever. Yeah, that's just your head getting in the way. Just keep going. If something was wrong, you'll figure it out later.
I'm feeling like the story that I did last year that I got stuck on, NaNoWriMo. I was really busy with work and everything, and I got stressed out about that, which was me getting in my own way. But I reached a point in the story where it just didn't feel right. And I haven't gotten over that hurdle yet. But I think that is that writerly voice speaking out. And I'm feeling that difference now.
And there's nothing wrong with, if you feel that that's maybe the case, you know what? Set that little bit aside. You can always bring it back in and take a detour. See if maybe the story is supposed to veer a bit. And if you then hit a dead end 2,000 words in, you realize, no, that wasn't the direction I was supposed to go.
The malleability of what you set as your plan versus what actually gets written is one of the harder things for me to deal with. Because I always forget the fact that you can just take that and set it aside and start a new document and just explore the world and see how it goes, because that's fun, and I should remember that. I don't. I don't.
I like, and this is kind of a long way of me agreeing with you that yes, that is very difficult. But I like to approach writing and storytelling from almost like a puzzle standpoint, or like I play a lot of board games, and like there's lots of ways that you can assemble the pieces, but only one way is like optimal, or only one way really assembles a nice picture. And so looking at different story beats or character arcs or world building elements as pieces of a puzzle, you can kind of like, well, let's see, if we put this here and that there, well, that makes a nice cohesion, and that means that it would work well with this bit over here. Oh wait, but then this piece doesn't fit in. Well, what if we turn it around this way? But there are so many ways with writing. It's so open-ended, as you said, that there are so many ways to assemble. It gets really like intimidating and overwhelming if you think about it too much. And that's where I think, especially as like plotters and outliners, we can get in our own way so often by thinking about all the different permutations that the story can take. And where NaNoWriMo, getting back to that, is such a great motivator, like I said, is that it forces you to say, you know what, you've gotten this much figured out, now just go. You gotta go eventually. You just gotta get something on the page. And then you can, step back and look at it and see,
did that work?
This bit fits really well, this bit doesn't. Now I know better what to do for next time, or now I have some ideas for what to try with the next story in terms of different character arcs or plot points or setting up payoffs later on.
Yeah. I don't trust myself to do that during not NaNoWriMo. NaNoWriMo I have to thank for pushing me to actually write what I say I'm going to write, because I'm a plotter. Yeah. The joy in plotting is sometimes matched by like the writing.
Yeah, and
it's like an 80%. Like the plotting for me is 100%. I love doing that, and then sometimes I can get up to like 90, 80% with writing.
The writing is writing is always one of those things where once I actually start doing it, most of the time it's like I remember that it actually is a pleasurable experience, or at the very least it makes me feel good about myself, even if like the actual sitting there like tapping away for an hour or two was like drudgery. When I step away from that, I'm like, oh, my whole like being has been refreshed, and I feel a positive outlook about the future.
Yes.
Whereas if I spend all day saying I should write,
Maybe
not writing, that's where the writing is not fun because I didn't actually do it.
Yes.
But remembering it is like hard.
I totally agree. That is where it doesn't go up to the 100. It's like feeling like I'm letting myself down by not actually doing it. So are you a plotter?
Given my general failure at finishing things, I don't know what I am. I've had success with plotting things out and with pantsing it, I guess you would say. I think I feel more freedom to explore kind of different tangents from the story when I'm just going at it. I feel a bit more freedom to sort of let the characters breathe a bit more when I'm just going with it. And then I also like, it's kind of fun to just like go edit for a little bit each day and then think about, well, what might happen next, and sort of reflect on that for the evening and then come back at it the next day. When I'm writing every day, I do find a lot of fun in pantsing it, as some people call it. But since I tend to think in series, even when like I just start working with a germ of an idea, I'm like, ooh, and then like 10 books down the line, it could be doing this. When I'm approaching a potentially larger project, I don't feel comfortable like just jumping in and saying, well, hey, who knows what might happen. I like to have a bit more of an anchor.
You need to have a direction to go.
Yeah. But part of that is because 90% of the time I approach any project, I don't feel comfortable getting started unless I know like what the ending is. And most of the time, I don't even have to like figure it out. It's like I come to a project with like, here's maybe where we start, and that's where we're headed.
So you have a more clearer vision of your ending?
Generally, yeah. It's maybe not always fleshed out in detail in terms of like, this person will do this because of this, and it reflects that, and it betrays so and so. It's more like, in the end, person X ascends to godhood and imprisons all of his enemies in the hell of his mind.
Isn't that how all the stories end, though?
No, but coming to it with the ending in mind and having a beginning in mind, and I made that point already. That was the only one that I actually came to the table like, let's see, NaNoWriMo plotting advice. Well, that's the only one that I've ever really used, so I guess that's what I got.
The time when I learned that the best was when I listened to or watched Dan Wells. He's got
the
his
7-point story structure.
He
Yeah.
says start it, with your idea, and then go to the end and come back. And that was. I've been trying to do that every time, and it's definitely helpful.
I've tried using the 7-point story structure a couple of times, and I find that it leaves my middles too thin. Because I've noticed that,
that's my starting point
coming to it this way.
Plotting, and then I go back in and I throw other stuff in. Or just let myself kind of experiment to find what else is going to fill it out.
Yeah, like I like his approach as like a deconstruction approach, and like kind of figuring out like, what pieces do we have here. But for me, building my stories, it's left me wanting where other processes or like sort of leaving things open-ended in the middle a bit more have worked better for me. Because I know Dan has said in the past also that he is more of a middles writer. He likes that open-ended free-form middle where you can kind of like play with the characters, they're established, and like to kind of have fun with them. But he says that he's talked about in the past that's like, what that did was I never actually ended it because it's like, well, I'm having fun, and then it just kind of stopped. And that's not a good way to end a story. So this is why I learned this process, because it lets you figure out your beginning and ending so you know what you're doing. And since I tend to come to my stories with those already in mind, doesn't really fit very well.
Yeah, I just struggle with the ending so much that like forcing me to think about the ending.
Yeah.
And then I can figure out what else is going on.
One of the newer techniques that I've been trying to keep in mind, I guess, is who Scott somebody. I haven't actually read any of his books, but I've read a couple of his writing books, and he's a thriller writer.
Bell?
Largely. Scott Bell? Yes, thank you. Yes, Scott Bell, who, as you know, writes all kinds of writing books.
I read the Conflict and Suspense last year.
I haven't read that one. I think I read...
It's good. It's very helpful. But he's done so many,
Gosh, it was ages ago now, but it was a plotting book. Anyway, one of those more recent ones is Plotting from the Middle, where he talks about, in analyzing a lot of different stories, you notice that there is this like key turning point in the middle of the book, and lots.
So how are you doing on prep and everything right now?
I'm not. My plan is that I have no plan. I have a couple of projects that I've spent the summer sort of sketching out, and so I might pick one of those to go with. It might be, though I would prefer not to, it might be that I go back to a half-finished project and just make some progress on that. But I like to treat Nano as sort of its own thing and do a start-to-finish project, because I think that's good practice, is learning how to start a story and finish a story. Finishing the story is kind of the challenge I have right now. So
yes.
yeah, right? So I don't know. It might be that a week before, what would that be, like next week sometime, I'll decide, well, I gotta do something, so let's just figure this out real quick. Or it might be that November 1st comes and I just open up a new page and say, once upon a time. But that tends to not end well, yeah.
I did that the first year.
Just sort of like planning a few steps ahead and just trying to catch up.
I caught NaNoWriMo just in time to start and just go.
Nice.
And I didn't realize that you could plan. So I started planning as I ran into like day 4 or 5 or something. I like ran into a problem where it's like, I have these ideas and I have no idea what to do. I need to sit down and plan. So I spent a day planning, and then I found more success once I had stuff.
Yeah. And I haven't ever like just opened up a prompt or anything and been like, tell a story about X, and just sat down and gone with that. But like I said, I like to sort of use NaNoWriMo to challenge myself to work differently than I normally do. So it might be that, if between now and then I don't have any better ideas, I do something like that and see where that gets me, see if that can be successful for me.
It seems like you think of NaNoWriMo similarly to the way that I do, is where NaNoWriMo is an experiment. It's just kind of forcing you into this mold to get the words done, and how you do it, you can experiment in different ways to figure out how you best write. So you can take that experience and apply it to the rest of the year.
I think that's definitely true. And to be honest, I kind of wish I could take that attitude and apply it outside of NaNoWriMo, like all of my projects, because I'm definitely, like, when I'm dedicated to NaNoWriMo, I am most productive when I'm doing NaNoWriMo. And
it's so helpful to have other people doing it with
That's
you.
true.
Yeah.
That's true. Props for writers groups. A bit of a plug there. Yeah. But because and again, this is kind of my observation from talking to and learning from long-term writers, is that for most of them, every book is an experiment and a learning process or a learning opportunity, where it's like, okay, what can I try differently here? Or what can I, practice here? Or what do I need to work on? And, no writer is a finished product themselves, and so technically no book is either.
Yeah.
But at some point you say, this is good for where I'm at now, move on to the next thing. I think that's something that NaNoWriMo helps teach you as well.
Yeah.
Which is why, again, it'd be nice to take that attitude of, what can I try different here, and what can I, motivate myself with here outside of November.
Yeah. It definitely is different, I've found, for each project, because the last story that I tried to write was such a different experience from the first 2 NaNoWriMos that I did. It was night and day.
Yeah.
I didn't end up needing all of the plotting, or I didn't end up doing as much plotting, or that wasn't where the mojo was coming from, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think some stories, like, when you sit down to write them, you know, you've read so many stories and watched so many movies, and you have so much, like, story backlogged in your brain that I think some stories kind of flow organically, and you can just sit down and say, you know, yeah, I feel like I know how to tell this. I don't need to figure out all the steps.
Yeah.
And other stories, especially, again, like series stories or like larger stories with multiple characters and parts and settings and all these, like they do require a bit more maneuvering, a bit more setting up of pieces so you can see, you know, where you're going, and then you can kind of bring those story instincts to it.
Do you have any rituals while you're writing? Or maybe at least doing NaNoWriMo?
While I'm writing, I like to write at the same time every day, but that's a real challenge with an inconsistent schedule.
Yep.
I know the first time that I did NaNoWriMo, you know, being in school, it's like, well, I see that I have this, you know, hour-long break between classes that it's at the same time every day, so great, let's get as much of it filled with words as we can. I definitely prefer to, like, hit the daily goals with Nano as opposed to being like a weekend warrior, as people say. I feel like I'm more likely to actually finish the thing if I'm hitting those daily goals. And plus, I think that's the kind of writer I want to be in the long run anyways. So building that habit in November, you know, good practice.
Yeah.
Outside of that, no, I'm not like a superstitious writer where I'm like, okay, let's make sure I, you know, throw some salt over the right shoulder, bless the fingers, and set up my tea. Yeah.
Like candle that had like a scent has to be going.
That's not a bad idea though. I typically listen to music when I write, in part because, you know, again, my practice in writing came from doing so in school, where it's either like, you know, in dorm rooms where there's either a person in there or a person next door, so you don't really have control over the sound around you. So
drown it out.
Yes, no words in the music though. I cannot listen to lyrics-driven music.
I can't either.
Even if I know like Hamilton by heart, you know, the words are still there, so they don't fade into the background the way they might for some people. It's got to be like classical music or soundtracks to movies and things like that. Those are good.
Music is good. I agree.
Or like some rain. Like I've been listening to Thunderscapes or whatever lately, because those like nice in the background. And I always feel really creative when there's an actual storm outside. So simulating one in my audio center.
Yeah.
With some projects has helped.
So we've been cut off twice by the battery on the camera dying, and I think we've covered a range of topics that kind of touch on a lot of different things about NaNoWriMo and storytelling and plotting and prepping and all this stuff. And so I just wanted to wrap up. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that you're excited about this Nano?
I'm excited to actually do it again. I do think committing myself to this event that is always every year will help me get back on track with my writing. It's been an off again on again kind of year, but Nano's another great moment to start again, start anew.
Yes,
writing
and
is all about exactly. Writing is all about not quitting. So
yes, I've been trying very hard. I've been on the edge of not quitting for a while, or on the edge of quitting. Not really quite there, but I'm looking at it going, yeah, that would be very appetizing, but I'm very stubborn. I don't want to do that. No thanks.
J.A. Conrath, it's one of my favorite quotes by him. He's like, says, you know, there's a word for writers who never quit: published. So, writing is very much one of those long con games where it's like, well, you know, if you just don't give up, eventually you'll make it.
And speaking of published, do you want to let anybody know where to find your stuff?
Yeah, like I said, it should be on most ebook retailers, and if it's not yet, it will be soon. The book is called Into the Silence. It's a space road trip, is how I like to describe it. drifter who's kind of down on his luck signs up with a real space shipping company who transports dangerous goods from one planet to the other, so they have to spend like a year and a half together in space, and they're all strangers, so
that sounds like fun.
Drama ensues. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I had a lot of fun writing it, and I'm having fun figuring out how to get it to the world.
So we're looking forward to doing NaNoWriMo this year, and maybe he'll show up in some of the videos later on during the month.
I hope so. This is fun.
Thank you very much for being in the video.
You're welcome.
Yay!
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, bye.
Bye.
So I hope you enjoyed that. That was just such a blast to sit down with Josh and have this conversation. And I hope it kind of benefited to see another perspective. It's usually just my big fat head on this channel, so it's nice to have another person involved. If you want to join in the conversation, please leave any comments below, and I'm gonna let him know when this is up, so if he wants to join in the conversation too, you can ask him directly some questions. I'll try to leave as many links to stuff that we talk about in the description below as well, and I will see you guys next week for another update. Good luck on all your prep. Bye!
Tie here.
We're gonna be so fancy.
Yes.
So who are you?
My name is Joshua. Do I give my full name? I don't know how to do this.
You don't have to if
Okay,
you
my name is Joshua.
You could be anonymous.
Kehe.
Anonymous.
I am monogamous. I don't know what that means. It's like monogamously anonymous? Anonymously monogamous.
You've only ever been not that one person.
I need to write that down. And commercial break.